Can you step to the left?
Yeah.
Sorry, the other left.
Okay, so when I was a wee nipper, my friends and I would get together, fix up these old junkers, take them out somewhere and crash them together just to see which one survived. I'm not suggesting for a moment that any of you ever try... Brilliant. Ever try that at home, but after years of pushing for this thing to be a part of Grid, we're finally about to get our first ever bona fide demolition derby. Ah! Get your car, we're getting on that track. And you as well, Tom, come on.
Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video I'm going to showcase the new story mode that we got with Grid Legends, the first DLC. It's Valentine's Car-Nage, classic Car-Nage DLC. Basically it's sort of a throwback to the old demolition derby events that we used to have on the original Grid. This pack brings, I believe, like 4 new layouts, 3 new invitational events, 7 story mode missions, so it's like in its own separate story, and 5 new cars. Some of the cars aren't really new, I believe. I think, if I'm right, 4 of these have featured in previous Codemasters racing games, and one of them is actually only new, which is sort of the ice cream truck that we have. The others, which is this van here that you're seeing, there's a tow truck, the classic Jupiter, like the original Grid Demolition Derby car, that returns, and then there is another sort of old school looking sort of coupe, classic looking car, a bit of a hot rod, and I believe that's also featured before. I think the majority of them featured in Dirt Showdown, if I'm not, I might be wrong about that, but I do believe that all those 4 cars have featured previously, with the ice cream truck being the only one that really hasn't. So yeah, as you're going to see, this is going to be a full playthrough of the story mode. Basically it's 7 sort of races with some cutscenes in between, and each race obviously your goal is to finish first and win the event, and obviously you have a side objective in each race. As you can see here, it's deal 3,000 damage to other vehicles. Not too bad, pretty simple and straightforward. You can get it done in around about an hour, maybe even about 45 minutes if you're even quicker. I did end up doing 2 playthroughs of this because my save corrupted after I captured this footage, so I had to go through it again, and I felt like I went through it much quicker the second time. This is maybe because I don't play too much Grid Legends at the minute. So getting used to the handling and stuff, it may seem like I'm not that great at the game through this playthrough. Obviously the second time much quicker, much easier to get through. So what are the events like? Are they difficult? Are they easy? They're pretty straightforward. There is a couple of races that may cause a bit of trouble, and a couple of side objectives that are a little bit awkward. But apart from that, it is pretty, straightforward stuff. These 5 new cars that we have, I say they're new, so these 5 vehicles that have come along with this pack, from what I read, has enhanced damage. So basically, they're a lot easier to wreck, and supposedly the damage is a bit better. For me though, the damage model even on these cars, it's nothing special. I mean, if you've played Wreckfest, you know that game is pretty much the king of crash physics, obviously apart from like BMG and stuff. But I mean, when it comes to straight up racing, that's available for most consoles. You'll know that Wreckfest is pretty much king of that. Pretty much for me took over from the burnout crashes that we had back in the day, which were mind-blowing. So does it really live up to what I'd call the standards in 2022 when it comes to crash physics? Not really. It's okay, it's nothing special, it won't blow your mind. I mean, the tracks themselves though are pretty great. As you can see, there's a lot of jumps and a lot of sort of cross points where there's a few times where you can just pile into a car in the middle of a jump, and it's pretty awesome. So with this video, I'll sort of talk you through, you know, the DLC and the events, and then when the cutscenes play, I will basically just go quiet for a bit, let the cutscenes play, and then we'll get back to discussing the DLC as a whole. So as you can see, that's event 1 done in the van. Decent event, nothing mind-blowing to start with. So let's get on to the next cutscene.
Alright, now for a little history lesson on the joy that's Demolition Derby. Claire, can you tell us why Demolition Derby has never been a part of Grid till now?
Well, actually it was.
Cue archival race footage.
See, there was this whole plan for outfitting retired cars with extra safety equipment to do annual demolition events. But in the trial run, Nathan McCain flips his vehicle, loses his front teeth.
Oh, what a shame. Let me guess. He whined so loudly that they cancelled the whole thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Some people can dish it out, but they can't take it.
No comment.
This is strictly an amateur and semi-pro event, but you better believe that I will be driving, because guess who is literally the poster boy for this whole thing? Claire Webb.
You?
Uh-huh. Man like Manzi. Take the picture. Come on. Right. Let's go smash it up.
So event 2, this is getting underway. So the first event took place at, I believe, Yokohama Docks, and this is in Havana. So there's actually no new areas, it's just sort of new layouts in sort of previous areas and cities that we've been to. Nothing too special. I mean, if you've played a race in Havana, this will look very familiar to you, and obviously if you've been on the docks before, that'll look very familiar to you. So there's nothing really majorly stand out. There's no new locations. I mean, I do kind of wish we had sort of like a dirt crossover track, so like a figure of 8 track. You know, that's the kind of thing I was really hoping for, but sadly not. They're all still on tarmac and in places that we've, you know, sort of already used. This car here, this is, I believe it's called the Jupiter or something like that. It's pretty much been the go-to demolition derby car for the Grid games for, you know, many years now. I mean, when was Grid 1 released? I think like 2008, and it's featured in games since then. I believe it's not just featured in the Grid series. So, am I, you know, happy with the DLC, or am I pretty disappointed? It's difficult to say. I'm sort of happy to get more content for Grid Legends. But for me, this just feels like something they're sort of put in there for the sake of putting it in, and I feel like the longevity of it'll be, I guess, kind of popular for a week, maybe 2, and then the game will just go back to where it was. Obviously, the game, it was received okay. A lot of people felt like it was an improvement over Grid 2019. If you remember that game seemed pretty popular for a long time. Obviously, I think it was mostly just trophy hunters in the end trying to get that really long last trophy and achievement. But apart from that, I mean, Grid Legends, it is a massive improvement over Grid 2019. However, it's already at the point where it's on sale quite a lot, not only on, you know, disc, but as well in the store. I've seen it a few times popping up for, like, I believe like around like £25. I'm the guy that paid £70 for this. Overall, am I disappointed? Not really. I do feel like there was a bit too much of a long wait. I mean, with this DLC coming out, it doesn't feel like it should have took 4 months to come around and sort of get released. And I kind of feel like with the lack of marketing and such, that this game is pretty much, I guess, sort of killed off in a way. I feel like they'll maybe fulfill, you know, the 4 DLC packs we're going to get, and if they don't do anything ridiculously special with them, then I feel like this game will just be sort of seen as a massive flop and sort of a massive failure. Do I think that's down to the gameplay and such? Not really. I feel like this game had a really, you know, massive lack of sort of advertisement. I remember with Grid 2019, that was sort of advertised everywhere. I remember seeing it on TV, everywhere on YouTube, you know, that awesome soundtrack that they played in the background, that really cool trailer. You know, going, I believe it was like played backwards and such, like the damages on the car, sort of showcasing the Nemesis system before that was sort of properly announced. It was a really awesome trailer, and I feel like Grid Legends was sort of just thrown out there and sort of left really with really no sort of hype about it. I didn't even know until like about a month before the game came out that it was actually coming out. I think I was just kind of looking around the store one day and just kind of saw it there, and I thought, oh, okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've got a little treat for y'all. I am here with the one, the only, the legendary, the majestic Ajit Singh.
Hey.
Ajit, tell us how it feels to be running technical for our first ever annual classic Car-Nage.
You mean, what's it like building cars just to watch them get destroyed?
Yes.
Well, kind of makes me wonder, do you just like messing with my head?
Never thought of it like that before.
Sorry. But I have to admit, it's actually a lot of fun.
Okay. You heard it here first, folks. It is a lot of fun. Now, you're gonna have to forgive me. I need to get ready for my next race because I'm gonna win. Right? No. See you later.
Is that it?
So, like I was saying, this game kind of just caught me by surprise. I did not even hear about this, and I'm quite up to date with my racing games. And I just remember just seeing it in the store and thought, oh, another Grid game, awesome. I mean, I'm one of probably the few people that enjoyed the reboot, so the Grid 2019. Was I, you know, as impressed as like when I jumped on, say, the original Grid? No. And for me, the Grid series has never caught what made the first one so great. So we obviously had Grid 2, which was more like street cars and like, I say arcadey because they've always been arcadey, but it was more like they had the system, I believe, with like views and stuff back in, I mean, what was that, like 2012, 2013? And for me, that game it was good, but it wasn't the original. It felt really sort of off topic from what the original was, and then Grid Autosport came back. It sort of brought the series back into that sort of motorsport kind of way, and while that was awesome with plenty of things to do, it just, you know, it really just lacked that soul of like building your own team back in the original Grid and then taking part in Le Mans each year. You know, it was just really cool. You know, signing drivers and such. And then obviously we had Grid 2019, which sort of brought back the signing of drivers and such, but it just didn't have that same team building feel to it. It just felt like, you know, it was just buying a bunch of cars and that was it. Wasn't much depth in there. And then Grid Legends came along and this whole career mode, story mode thing. So you do like your story mode, and that kind of leads into how the AI is in the career mode. So some of the AI will change because of things that happen throughout the story, and then you're basically stuck with one teammate. You chuck a bunch of upgrades on him, you sort of upgrade your money earned and such, and away you go. It's I say very shallow, and while this for me in a way feels like a mix between, I wouldn't even really say a mix. I feel like it is just like Grid Autosport 2 with the amount of sort of disciplines and such we're having. Like, that is one thing I cannot fault this game for, is just this sheer amount of different vehicles and the types of vehicles that we see. Like, for me, a lot of really unrepresented cars, classes and such are on show in this game, and that's what I really enjoy. The gameplay's pretty solid, but again, it's just, it hasn't captured that original Grid experience from back in the day, and in a way I feel like it wasn't meant to. I feel like it was kind of supposed to be this, you know, big dramatic story, and then you have a bit of a career mode which just feels like a bit of a checklist, I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't a big fan of the story mode in the original. I actually prefer this story because I feel like it's more bite-sized. and it sort of focuses in one area, whereas the story just felt all over the place. It really didn't have that impact like there was a whole big deal about one of the, I can't remember her name, Yumi or something like that. She has a big crash, and just the impact wasn't there. It was just pretty fell flat. I didn't really listen to much of the story. I didn't really care for it. So overall, my opinions on Grid Legends: do I feel like this DLC is sort of going to bring it back to life? No, because I feel like with things like Wreckfest and such, this is never going to compete. Like, you know, it just feels like really strange. Like, it's sort of the whole premise of the story for this, I guess, is like it's off season and Valentin just wants to have some fun, so he made this demolition derby event for amateurs, and it's just supposed to be a bunch of fun, and then the pro teams want to get involved and they get involved at the end, and then it just ends. You basically just check off the events, you win, job done. And then there's like 3 invitational events which you have to do your sponsor objectives to unlock them. Sadly, one of mine is glitched, so the doing miles in derby cars, I can't actually get that one to unlock, so I don't really know what they're going to unlock. I don't think they do anything. I think it's just a one-off event. So yeah, I don't know, it's just weird. So no cutscene in between that one. Again, there's like a few cutscenes, and then there'll be a big space where there's no cutscenes, and then there's some more. It's really weirdly sort of laid out. I believe in the story maybe we had pretty much cutscene every time, and that was that. But with this, there's like a couple of cutscenes. They're pretty cringy. I'm not gonna lie, they've always been fairly cringeworthy. The acting's not great, and they do have, you know, the main guy, Valentin, for this is a pretty well-known actor in my country at least, and he's very good in pretty much everything he's in. If you don't know, he's going to be the new Doctor Who, and for the sort of acting that he puts into this, it's just not great. It doesn't really add anything, and it's a shame really. I mean, if you've got people as talented as, you know, they can be, and as funny as he can be, why are you giving him such cringy lines? Yeah, it's pretty weird. So yeah, it may seem like I'm just complaining, but overall, is this a fun DLC? It's fun, but I don't see it lasting long. Like, that is my overall opinion on it. I just feel like it's going to be cool for a couple of weeks. There's going to be a bunch of people throwing cars over ramps, and then it'll just, people won't use these cars, because let's be honest, the cars aren't very, you know, anything special. It's just like typical generic derby cars. Like, there's a tow truck, there's a van, there's an ice cream truck, you know, your typical car, derby car, I guess. And then there's obviously like the old hot rod, old coupe kind of thing with a crap ton of horsepower, and that's kind of it. Like, there's nothing special, there's nothing really stand out. Like, the tracks are cool, there's only 4 of them though, so people are going to get pretty tired of them quick. The cars are generic, so I don't know. I mean, it's good. It was pretty nice to do something a little bit different in Grid Legends, but I do feel like they could have, after, you know, if they have been working on this for 4 months, they could have done a lot more of it. You know, dirt ovals, dirt figure of 8 tracks, give us some dirt events. Like, why not? You know, it cannot be that hard for you to implement them. I mean, there's plenty of racing games out there, you know. I mean, Wreckfest, that has multiple different sort of surfaces on single tracks, as well as like dirt tracks, road tracks. It cannot be that hard for them to just put it in an arcade racer like, you know, Grid Legends. I don't get why everything's all tarmacy. I do feel like they could have just done, you know, maybe a little bit more with it. But like I said, fun for a little bit, and that's probably about it. There's nothing too majorly standouty. But who knows? I mean, I do feel like there will be a few die-hard Grid players that will probably love this DLC and play it for, you know, hours on end, but I don't think I'll be one of them. I feel like, yes, I will play for it for a week or so. Maybe I'll jump in some online. I haven't actually got to try it yet, because when I went on there was, I believe, 3 lobbies and each had just 1 person in. So I feel like if you got a bunch of players together, it'd be pretty awesome. You could probably have a cool night of it, just throwing your car over a ramp and such, and just crashing into each other, kind of like it was back on Grid in 2008, 2009, when that was really popular online, and have some awesome fun with it. But I do feel like even online, it wouldn't save it for too long. Like, it just feels a bit, like I said, a bit dated in the crashing physics and such, and there's only so many times you can see your car barreling through the air. You know, that's really going to keep you entertained for a bit of dumb fun. Another thing to note is, like, the AI, again, they've got that Nemesis system. They're pretty aggressive. Like with the tracks, it is better to tune the cars, because on the default setups, a lot of cars, if you hit a ramp too quick and land too hard, it does sort of take away the damage. And obviously some of these events is like, you know, have a certain amount of health remaining and such, and then you kind of sort of playing where you are kind of like parking up at some of the jumps and kind of letting them jump over so you don't take too much damage. So yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's not bad. I mean, I don't mind playing that way, but sometimes you just want to have some dumb fun. And these objectives, I'm not going to lie, the first time you go through them kind of sucks a bit of the fun out of it, because you feel like you're focusing on them too much. And I don't actually think you get anything for them. Maybe you'll get like a banner or something. And let's be honest, nobody really cares. So let's talk about a bit more on the damage and how this works. So obviously it's a sort of lapped event. This is from what I can gather, and basically your goal is to basically win the race. The people and yourself that you're in the race with, if they get wrecked or take too much damage, if they take too much damage, they'll get wrecked, then they are out, and that can happen to you as well. So it can be, I guess, a little bit frustrating, because it did happen to me where I got wrecked and had to restart. Pretty annoying, because I feel like the I believe it's, like I said, the Jupiter, the more sort of generic derby looking car that's been around forever, is very, very weak. And one of the events, it just feels like they will just plant into you. Obviously with the Nemesis system still kind of there, yeah, it just feels like you've got a sort of like a target painted on you. Overall, as you can see, it is massive carnage. But one of the things that really frustrates me is when a car takes so much damage, it will start smoking. That smoke will just go into the air, cover the track, so you don't even know what you're driving into half the time. It's kind of luck, and hoping that you sort of see the name cards to avoid them. As you can see, I've just hit that guy there because I didn't see him. And then when you sort of get stuck on them, it's as if they'll keep reversing into you, and you'll sort of be stuck for a few seconds before you can finally get through and get going. It's extremely frustrating when you're on sort of you know, really damaged, and the car sort of, obviously the performance gets affected, and you're trying to get away, and you know, you've got this car stuck to you, and you have not got enough power to really pull away quickly, and then you are sitting up for anyone that comes in behind and just, you know, takes you out. But like I said, I mean, it is pretty cool. I can't really say too much that isn't obvious about this DLC. I do feel like after 4 months, like I've said, I just wish there was more to it, and it kind of isn't. It's a little bit lacking, but it is, you know, fun for a few hours, maybe a few days, and then I feel like everybody will just go back to the normal grid racing. So as you can see, that's another event done.
Okay, so originally the Derby was approved as a semi-pro and amateur event only, but the pros caught wind, they wanted in on the action, and so we are going full pro for the final stages of this Derby, which means that we...
Hello, Grid TV. You doing this all on your phone?
Muncie was trying to keep us out of his little event. What he doesn't know is I was the local demolition derby champion 3 years running.
What? And you mate, crashing cars on purpose after everything that's happened. Unstoppable. Between us, these two scare me more than Nate McCain ever did. Final races of the Derby coming up. Who will be crowned this year's classic Car-Nage champion? Me.
Game.
So I don't know if you've noticed, I did kind of mention it earlier about how just cringy the cutscenes are. It just makes me shudder. It's some of the most terrible acting I've ever seen. I'm not a fan of them at all. If you remember the Toka games, so the predecessor to the Grid games back in the day, they had sort of CGI cutscenes and they were pretty awesome. They kind of felt natural, whereas this live action thing that Codemasters seem to have going on, it's just not great. If you remember, I feel like it's kind of what they did with the F1 story mode thing, and I'm not gonna lie, they were much better. They were CGI and felt, again, more natural to the game. I don't understand why they went with live action. I don't know if they thought some big names would sort of boost up the sales or what, but obviously it didn't, because I don't know. So right, let me talk about this. This is one major thing I've got with Grid Legends, and I'm gonna get it off my chest. I know it sounds like I'm just complaining constantly, but trust me, I'm not. I do love the game. A lot of people hate it. I don't. I actually really enjoy it for what it is. I can look past the many flaws and just have fun. So yeah, let's get on to this point, because I'm just gonna try and wrap my head around this. So some of these actors, obviously, especially, I mean, the big obvious name in there, the guy that everybody is gonna know. I actually can't remember his actual actor name. So the actor that plays Valentin, he's a very well-known actor over here, and I'm going to assume he wasn't sort of cheap to get to act in this game. Yeah, okay, he's not majorly in the story as much as some of the other characters, but he's still there, and he's probably going to charge a decent fee, especially now he's got his own DLC. And I'm just kind of wondering, why would you have such such a big name and such, to then not give the game any advertisement, really? I guess it just seems weird that they would do that. Yeah, I don't get, really. I just feel like this game must be burning profits, because let's be honest, it's not the most popular racing game out there right now. You have things like such as Gran Turismo 7. Obviously you've got iRacing that's constantly going, that has none of this kind of thing. You've got F1 coming out in only a few days now. And then you've got things such as like Forza coming out next year, and I feel like, as much as I don't want to admit, I feel like this game may bleed too much money for it to ever really bring another Grid game to light, if that makes sense. So this is my massive complaint, is I feel like they've chucked a ton of money into these live action sort of scenes and actors, which most gamers, especially racing gamers, don't care for. If we have a story, a lot of the time we want to play through sort of in-game cutscenes or CGI cutscenes. We don't care about seeing big actors and big names. That's never been, like, I mean, for me as a guy that's been playing racing games for well over 20 years now, that's never been a draw for me. Toka, I was just fine with it. Some awesome little CGI cutscenes or in-game cutscenes, things like Midnight Club, where the characters used to speak to you at the end of the races and stuff. That was enough to draw me in. I don't need a big story or big name actors, in a game to make me want to play it. I think they should have switched the focus to going back where they could have gone, and where they were with the original Grid, and used more of the budget in there to ensure it was fun, ensure they had the correct amount of advertising for this game, so it would thrive and would have a good community. Because I feel like that's what's really hurt this game, is not only the release date a week before Gran Turismo 7, which was one of the most hyped racing games ever. I'm not going to go there. Gran Turismo 7 is a really dividing game, but it's still popular, and it has a massive fan base that has been there for over 20 years, like 25 years now. And then you come along a week before with a racing game, which is, it's cool arcade fun, and I love arcade games. Nothing, it doesn't have to be ultra realistic for me to enjoy something. I just love racing games. I love flying around in these expensive flashy cars that I know I'm never ever going to get a chance to in real life, so the more the merrier, in my opinion, when it comes to racing games. But yeah, I just don't get why they didn't just focus on advertising instead of getting these big budget actors in and sort of, you know, that's nothing against them, because I'm sure, you know, they had fun, and there's probably some people in there. I mean, I don't recognise everyone that's in there. They may already have big acting careers, or they may not. And I guess, you know, maybe some people it's their first work they ever did. So it is pretty awesome to sort of, you know, for them to have an opportunity to appear in something like this. But I do feel like they really should have just put more budget into advertising and into the game in general. And I feel like that's my main gripe and main complaint. Is obviously Grid is a well-known series at this point. You know, most players that play Grid or have ever touched a Grid game know they follow on from the, well, I guess follow on, but you know, it's the successor to the Toka games, which were huge back in the PS2 days, like really big games. Like everybody was talking about them. Everyone I know played them and loved them to death. And even now, you'll see people referencing Toka games, and you know. You know, those games back then, and the amount of love that the original Grid got, you know, you could have, you know, rode this massive load of hype and really hyped up something that could have gone back to, you know, the days of the past, really, which is what most people want from these games. Is, I mean, for me, remake Grid 2008 and, you know, with all the monographics and such, and I will play the hell out of it. I'd love it. But I just feel like they kind of went the wrong direction overall with this game. Lack of advertisement. You know, these big name live cutscene actors and such. It's just, you don't need it in a racing game. Go on, Codemasters, EA, whoever was in charge. I'm going to assume it was Codemasters, because it must have been in development, I'm guessing, since just after Grid 2019, after they saw that was, you know, pretty well received, I guess, sales wise, so they thought, oh, let's do it again. Yeah, you didn't need all that stuff. You could have just put all these disciplines in together, had us working through, you know, championships and such, and building up a team, putting money into it. You know, don't give us a set teammate, let us pick our own teammate with their own strengths and weaknesses, and let's, you know, work from the ground up, from some of the weaker cars in the game to some of the more, you know, expensive, crazy GT Le Mans machines, like we had, you know, back in the day. So there we go. Complaint over. I just feel and really wish they'd gone a different direction with this game. Does that mean I'm going to stop playing it, you know, because it sounds like I hate it? No, because the gameplay for me is solid. If I want to sort of either play with my partner or play with a couple of friends and just have some fun, this game is really, really great for that. Gameplay wise, it's sometimes it's just fun to play an arcade racer that, you know, you don't have to take too seriously. You don't have to worry about time management. You can just throw expensive cars around the track. If you crash into people, then it is what it is. It's hilarious, it's funny, you know. That's what's great about this game. Gameplay wise, solid, and I just wish they'd done more, you know, building on what they have gameplay wise, because that is always going to be the standout for the Grid games, is the feel of the game, you know, how the game plays. That is what Grid lives or dies off, you know. And then just add more career features in, give us more, you know. I mean, one thing to note is that there's not even a photo editor, and that is a big no-no for me. I love to play around with, you know, photo mode and such, and I have looked everywhere. Maybe I'm just being blind, but I cannot find a photo editor in this game. Yeah, I do feel like, you know, there's a lot of little sort of things like trophies not unlocking and little nitpicks that they should have fixed, as well as focusing on the DLC. And they could have done, you know, yes, I'm glad Demolition Derby's back, but they could have just done that a little bit more with it after, you know, 4 months after release. They know the game's suffering at this point. I'm hoping and I'm praying that they try and get that fun back with the DLCs. They don't just put some generic rubbish out and hope to God it just brings players back for a couple of days or weeks, and then they, you know, people are waiting for the next DLC, because I feel like that will be the trouble here. Is that, like I said, people will come back for a bit and then they'll disappear again. So yes, I feel like I've kind of had a rant about this game, because I feel like this DLC sort of showcases those issues. Like, you know, quite prominently. I feel like it showcases the issues in the base game and it showcases some of the issues here. So overall, here is sort of my summary for this DLC. Fun, yes. What are the new cars like? They're okay, but like I said, I feel like they're just very generic, and I believe like the majority of they've appeared before, and the one that hasn't is just it's an ice cream truck. It's nothing, special. So I don't know. I mean, the tracks are cool. It obviously looks cool, typical over-the-top grid fashion. But my opinion on it is it could have just been more, and it leaves you wanting more from this kind of Demolition Derby thing. I'm hoping kind of keep adding updates to it. So I don't even know the price point because I have got the deluxe edition, so it kind of comes in for free. What would I say? It's probably worth paying for it. Probably like £5-7, so not much. If it's any more than that, I mean, honestly, I couldn't tell you because it just says purchased on my store. I did try and look into it. Yeah, if it's any more than that, would I recommend you purchasing it? Not really. And they've also added the feature, and this is a plus point, but then it also says to me that they know this game is pretty much either going to die really quick or is, just forgotten about. Basically, if you own it, you can have your friends come into your Demolition Derby lobbies for free. Basically, they can experience the whole thing and not have to pay for it, online wise and sort of co-op wise and such. So yeah, I mean, that's a pretty cool thing. Bravo to Codemasters, EA, whoever's running the show behind the scenes now. Bravo in that. I guess it's kind of a way to get people back, and sort of being like, oh well, I don't need to pay for it, but I know someone that's already got it. But then at the same time, as far as I know, this game didn't sell too well. So yeah, there might not be many people out there that have got the game, or the base game, that know anyone with the DLC. So I'm going to say to you guys, if you want to do lobbies and you want to test out this DLC for yourself, like maybe in a bit of online and such, I'm more than happy to host lobbies. Just let me know in the comments if you want this, and maybe I'll do a little stream or something, and we'll just get a bunch of us in and just have some dumb fun, because like I said, for me, that is what the game is about. For me, a bit of arcade fun, getting a few people together and just having a laugh. Yeah, I do feel like that is kind of where the game excels, and that's especially where this DLC excels. Yes, the cars aren't great, they're a little bit generic. Yes, I do wish there was a little bit more diverse. But yeah, I am more than happy to get a bunch of people together and just have some fun, maybe do a stream. So, as you can see, the story mode is still going. I don't really need to commentate over the races, you can kind of see what they're about on the screen, and you can kind of see it's a bit of a checklist, but there you go. For me, it's all about the gameplay, and the gameplay is fun. I just wish there was a little bit more. 4 months, and this is what we get from a first major DLC pack. Yeah, I just, like I said, I just can't get over the fact like it's took 4 months and there's a huge lack of content. I'm hoping maybe some free updates. I know with Dirt 5, that was the same, where it was so forgotten about so quick, that they brought a bunch of free updates, and it actually did really work in its favour. So not only did it have its paid DLC, it had a bunch of free updates for everyone that really sort of quality of life changes and extra little features that really did actually help the game. I remember when that was free on PS Plus, I believe back in January. It was much better than when I originally jumped online when the game first came out. It really much more improved. So I kind of hope they do kind of do this with Grid Legends and don't just forget about it. At the end of the day, it's got a pretty legendary title, the Grid name. I mean, I'm going to assume the majority of people that like racing games know of that title, know where it comes from. So as you can see, this is another event done. So pretty short event there, but one of the more entertaining. So that was the second to last event. Like I said, pretty short event, but actually huge fun really. as generic as it is, that tow truck's pretty awesome for wrecking other cars. That is probably where you're going to have some of the more fun with this DLC. And this is the final event, basically an 8-lap race around one of the, I believe it is the longest track that came along with this DLC. Obviously in one of the, I'd say, faster cars. For me, this is the quickest car in the DLC. The stats actually don't really add up, but it just feels really quick. But again, you know, not a great damage model on it. Pretty generic little fast coupe, hot rod looking thing. But yeah, I mean, so, you know, we're at the point now. We'll come to the end of the video. My overall thoughts, I know it feels like I've just ranted, but I feel like I said, this DLC just kind of shows off the flaws with Grid Legends, especially from, you know, the base game. So let's, you know, go on to my overall opinion, if I think it should, you know, worth it. Let's summarise everything I've said. So, Valentin's Classic Car-Nage DLC. DLC 1 for Grid Legends. Overall, is it worth it? If you've got the deluxe edition, obviously it's no brainer. Just go and play it. Go and have you know, some fun for a few hours, and then just forget about it if you don't like it. Is it worth trying? Yes, it's 100% worth trying. And if you know someone that's got this that you can jump into online lobbies with, then do. Honestly, I feel like you will have fun. I feel like this is where this DLC will stand out, is online. If you can get a lobby together, then you're going to be in for a good time. It's going to be enjoyable. Would I recommend it for the single player? You know, these 7 or so story missions? Not really. They're pretty just, you know, do this, win this race, but do this on the side kind of thing. Pretty boring. The cutscenes are really cringy, and I'm not a fan of them. The free invitational events, you know, they're just going to be, I'm going to assume, like, I've not been there yet, but I don't think you actually unlock anything. It'll probably just be a few banners if you do, because obviously all the cars are available to you from the beginning. You don't have to unlock them. But is it worth grinding out for them invitational events? Probably not. Like I said, I mean, I've got a glitch on mine currently. I don't know what it's like for other players, but I can't actually get into them. So who knows? They're probably just going to be a generic event, and it'll just tick a bit more off your career mode. Again, a bit checklisty. The banners and such, they're pretty generic. They're nothing to shout about. And the cars, so obviously that's the main appeal, as well as obviously the tracks and the pack itself. The cars, okay. So the van, let's start with that one. Cannot remember its name. Like I said, so the van. It's not great. I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty slow. It's pretty heavy, but then it doesn't hit enough. You know, it doesn't pack enough of a punch to really do too much damage to the other cars. Nothing to really write home about there. Obviously the Jupiter, if you've played any other grid game, then yeah, it's all good. You know what to expect. So it's a good car, it's a pretty fun car to use, but it's very, very weak. This car here, the old classic coupe looking hot roddy thing, is it cool? Yes, it's fast as hell. It is really quick. It's a pretty awesome car to sort of zip around in. No complaints there. Definitely recommend trying that one out, but I mean, damage wise and such, if you want to see parts flying off, you're not really going to see that here. Probably one of the weaker ones for like showing off its damage model. So yeah, not too bad. The tow truck, right, that is definitely a huge beast of a thing. If you want to do a lot of damage to some of the smaller cars and set up your own custom races and such, you're gonna have a good time in that. It's, yeah, like, you know, it's pretty boring to look at, it's pretty generic, but like I said, for doing that damage and kind of seeing what this DLC should really be about, that could pretty much be your go-to. I know it is mine when it comes to sort of doing custom races and such. And obviously let's talk about the new one last off, the ice cream truck. So I know it's, I said it's nothing really special to look at, which in my opinion it isn't. It's nothing special to look at, but it does have 4-wheel drive. Very good handling, surprisingly, you know, feels pretty agile, but again, for such a big looking sort of vehicle, doesn't pack a punch. It's in the kind of same category as the van. but it does feel pretty awesome to drive, and it's not the quickest thing in the world, but that four-wheel drive is pretty awesome on it. So that is my opinion on the cars. So the tracks, let's go a little bit more into them. Do I like, you know, this track here? This is the longest one. This is on the docks. It's okay. I mean, the bit through the containers is pretty cool. Onto a big ramp, as you can see here. It's okay. It's a bit sort of dull apart from that. Nothing to really know. A bit miserable and gloomy around any other part of the track. The other docks track is the same. That's just pretty boring. Very gloomy feeling. The Havana tracks are definitely the standout, although they pretty much look the same, one's longer than the other, etc. They are definitely awesome. There's plenty of crossovers there, plenty of accidents to happen. So yeah, pretty cool there on that front. So as you can see, my overall opinion, yeah, it may seem like I'm ranting, but it's okay. Alright, for me, like I said, £5 to £7, and you can pretty much get your money's worth out of it. Anything more, don't touch it. I wouldn't recommend you going out your way, especially when multiplayer lobbies are free, and I'm assuming that you can use, you know, as long as someone's got this or someone's in the lobby, you know, I'm assuming you can use all the cars and such, so I'd probably hold out for that. It's a bit, in a way, annoying that they've announced that after, for people that have bought the pass thinking that's the only way they can play the DLC, especially if you mostly play it online and you're not bothered about the single player. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's okay, it's good, but it kind of makes you, I guess, wanting more from it, and I feel like it kind of highlights some of the, you know, problems with the base game, especially, like I mentioned. So yeah, I mean, not too shabby, not too bad. It's kind of, I guess, average. I mean, a lot of people were quite hyped because it was like, oh, Derby's back, but then I feel like it isn't what we expected. But it is what it is. That's kind of the way gaming is now, sadly. You know, just feeling a little bit disappointed and wanting more from everything. But who knows? I mean, okay, yeah, it's more Grid Legends content, and if you're a big fan of it, you're not going to turn away from it. You're going to, you know, do all you can with it. But I know there's not many of them kind of people still there, I guess. But yeah, I mean, overall, a pretty good DLC. And now, just a big thank you for watching this long video. And I'll see you all in the next one. I'll let the final cutscene play and then the video will end. So yeah, thanks so much, guys. Thanks for watching, and that is my opinions on Valentin's classic Car-Nage DLC.
Our inaugural classic Car-Nage has been a smashing success. Nobody got hurt, and I've got a hunch that Demolition Derby is here to stay. We will see you next season. And remember, if you want to try any of this at home, then just make sure to book yourself in with a licensed therapist, because crashing cars on purpose is exclusively for idiots. Can I try that again? I want to end on more of a high note.
Sure, but just so you know, we're at 1% battery.
Okay, I will go faster. Classic Car-Nage, huge success. Don't crash cars on purpose. You're the best fans in the world. We will see you next season for more Grid TV. Manzi out.